You got tired of them bickering and said, just do it. Is that true? I'm sorry?
Yes.
Teenage trials are hard to watch, leaving us questioning how someone so young could commit such horrific acts. In today's video, watch as we explore the raw, chilling responses of these teenage killers as they confront the weight of their actions and the lifelong consequences they now face.
A pocket knife, a kitchen knife.
Kitchen knife.
Okay. Where's that kitchen knife now?
The same.
On October 21st, 2009, 9-year-old Elizabeth Olten disappeared from her home and was never seen alive again. 2 days later, her body was in a wooded area near her home. Her throat had been slit and she had been stabbed and strangled to death. The police revealed that a juvenile had been caught and arrested for the murder of the 9-year-old. Later, the truth was revealed, and the perpetrator? 15-year-old Alyssa Bustamante.
She straddles the fence between emotional upset and removedness. She lowers her head, holding her face in her hands. Psychopaths and sociopaths are not incapable of experiencing guilt and remorse.
Alyssa and her 3 siblings started living with their grandparents in the same area as the Oltens in 2002. Their grandparents got custody of Alyssa and her siblings when their mother had addiction issues, and their father was serving time in prison. Alyssa began to change around 2007 when she was admitted to the hospital after a failed suicide attempt. From that time, nothing was ever the same. Alyssa's behavior changed drastically, and it reflected everywhere, especially on the internet. Alyssa had listed cutting as one of her hobbies on her YouTube profile. She also posted a disturbing picture of herself where she held 2 fingers to her head, pretending to shoot herself. On the day of the murder, Alyssa planned to kill Olten for the fun of it. Alyssa convinced her younger sister to bring Olten to the forest near their home under the assumption that they were going to hang out. After her sister went to Elizabeth, who lived 4 houses away from them, Alyssa waited in the woods for Elizabeth to arrive. Her younger sister was gone before Elizabeth came. When she arrived, Alyssa strangled Elizabeth, slit her throat, and stabbed her 8 times in the chest. After she murdered her, Alyssa buried Elizabeth's body in a grave she had dug 5 days before. After Alyssa returned home, she wrote something disturbing in her journal that led to her conviction. She attempted to scribble the note out after, but it was too late. She wrote,
I just killed someone. I strangled them and slit their throat and stabbed them. Now they're dead. I don't know how to feel at the moment. It was amazing. As soon as you get over the, oh my god, I can't do this feeling, it's pretty enjoyable. I'm kinda nervous and shaky though right now. Okay, I gotta go to church now, LOL.
She attended a church dance after. When this note was revealed to the public, many were horrified to find that a 15-year-old had written it. Alyssa was arrested and first brought to court in November 2009. She pleaded not guilty, but was indicted on first-degree murder and armed criminal action charges.
Basically, the main reason for accepting the offer was to avoid the absolute certainty of life without parole. If there was another option, then there would have been no reason to have accepted that offer.
Eventually, she took a plea deal in 2012 and the charges were lessened to second-degree murder. She showed no remorse, and it was clear that she only did it to make sure she didn't spend life in prison. Alyssa was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of conditional release and 30 years for armed criminal action. Where Alyssa killed Elizabeth for the fun of it, the same cannot be said for Christine Paolilla, who killed multiple people because of a failed robbery.
I had made the gun go off, not purposely though, but like it went to the back of the room because I was like screaming, just like shaking.
So somehow you pulled the trigger?
Yes.
Okay.
This is Christine Paolilla, and she just confessed to a mass murder that had happened 3 years prior. In this clip, she is a nervous wreck, but is not always so. Christine had done well after years of ridicule and bullying. Paolilla was diagnosed with alopecia in kindergarten, and this caused her to lose her hair, eyebrows, and eyelashes. She had to wear wigs because of hair loss. She also had poor vision and wore thick glasses. All of this contributed to her being bullied by her classmates. Paolilla lost self-confidence, and it was not until 2003 that things began to improve.
Christine came home one day, very happy. She said, Mom, I made 2 new friends who are the sweetest girls I've ever met. I said, who are they? She said, oh, Rachel and Tiffany.
Christine enrolled at Clear Lake High School in Houston, where she met Rachel Coloradis and Tiffany Rowell. Rachel and Tiffany were the school's popular girls and helped her change her appearance and fit in with the rest of the school. This greatly helped, and Christine became popular among the students. Her friendship with Tiffany and Rachel turned things around so much that she was voted Miss Irresistible by her school's student body. But her good streak wouldn't last long because it was that year that she started dating 21-year-old Christopher Lee Snyder. Christine was only 17 when this illegal relationship started. Christine's relationship caused her parents concern because Snyder was a drug addict and had a lengthy criminal record. Her parents disapproved because they felt that Paolilla would be influenced. She was. She began to use drugs and develop anger issues. On July 18, 2003, things would take a turn for the worse when Christine and Snyder went drug hunting at Tiffany's home. Tiffany, Rachel, Tiffany's boyfriend Marcus Priscilla, and Marcus's cousin Adelbert Sanchez were at the home before Christine and Snyder arrived. The two of them planned to steal drugs from Tiffany's home that night. However, Snyder got into an argument with Marcus, and this led to the shootings of the 4 teens who had been in the house. They were shot by Snyder and Christine.
The kids themselves, drenched in blood. There's blood spatter that's on the walls. There's bullet holes from rounds that have gone into the victims and outside of them.
Rachel attempted to call 911 but was hit in the head by Paolilla with the butt of a gun that was used to shoot her. The rest died almost immediately before fleeing. As for the teens, they were considered victims of a drug deal gone wrong. In 2004, Paolilla entered rehab where she met Stanley Rott, a heroin user. Her relationship with Snyder ended when the latter was jailed for stealing a car. She got married to Rott in 2005. Paolilla came into a trust fund of $360,000 that had been left to her by her father. She used part of the money to buy an apartment. It was in this home that Paolilla would discover on the news that the case of her friend's murder was still open. She confessed to Rott and told him what happened. Because of this, they went into hiding. In 2006, Paolilla and her husband were arrested. Paolilla for the murders and her husband for the 70 vials of heroin that were found in their room. Rott told the police that Paolilla had confessed to him. After Paolilla was interrogated, she confessed to killing her friends. However, she said that Snyder had made her do it.
I had made the gun go off, not purposely though, but like it went to the back of the room because I was like screaming, just like shaking.
So somehow you pulled the trigger?
Yes.
Okay.
Snyder himself was never caught. When he was informed that the police had a search warrant out for him, he committed suicide by overdose in 2006. Paolilla was spared the death penalty because she was a minor at the time of the killings. Paolilla was convicted of 4 counts of capital murder on October 13, 2008. On October 14, she was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 40 years in prison. Like Paolilla, Nathaniel Abraham claimed he didn't know what he was doing when he shot someone else. Or did he?
A young killer, an 11-year-old Pontiac boy, may be tried as an adult after going on a random shooting spree that left an innocent man dead.
Nathaniel Abraham became the youngest American to be convicted of murder as an adult. On October 29, 1997, 18-year-old Ronnie Green was shot while he was standing outside a party store. A single .22 caliber bullet had been shot into his head. He died a day later. The person who had shot the gun was 11-year-old Nathaniel Abraham. He admitted that he had been firing a .22 caliber rifle in the direction of the store. He insisted that he had not meant to shoot anyone. He said he was firing randomly at trees and balloons. Nathaniel should have gotten off with accidental manslaughter, but Oakland County prosecutors said that Nathaniel had intentionally planned to kill someone that day and then bragged about it afterward. Prosecutors got permission to charge Nathaniel as an adult. He was charged with first-degree murder and the case went to trial. Nathaniel was described as someone who knew what he was doing. He reportedly told his girlfriend days before the killing that he was going to shoot someone. Despite the initial charge, the judge in charge of the case reduced the list of charges to lesser punishments. On November 16, 1999, Nathaniel Abraham was found guilty of second-degree murder. He was 13 years old at the time, but he was tried and convicted as an adult. He was sentenced to a maximum security juvenile detention center until he was 21. Even though Nathaniel showed signs of rehabilitation by the time he was released from detention, he was back in court again a few months later.
Full support. I know I disappointed them again.
In 2008, he was arrested for possession of ecstasy. He assaulted 2 guards in 2010. He was released in 2018, but he didn't last more than a year outside. In 2019, he was once again arrested for selling meth and heroin to undercover cops. Ultimately, he was sentenced to 6 to 40 years in prison for his stint of crimes and offenses. Abraham apologized to his family for disappointing them again before he left the courtroom. Nathaniel Abraham committed a crime, but how does it compare to the horrors that Erin Caffey put her family through?
He got tired of them bickering and said, just do it. Is that true? I'm sorry?
Yes.
16-year-old Erin Caffey did the unthinkable because of love. Caffey was working as a part-time waitress when she met 18-year-old Charlie Wilkinson. Things became serious between them, and Charlie gave Caffey a promise ring. Erin's parents didn't like the relationship because they felt that something about Wilkinson was off. Because of their suspicions, they went online to see what they could find about Wilkinson. They found out that his page was littered with sexual references and talks about drinking alcohol. Because of this, Erin became scared that her parents would stop her from seeing Wilkinson, so she started talking about killing her family. On March 1, 2008, Erin carried her evil plan out with the help of Wilkinson and his friend, Charles Wade. Wilkinson claimed that even though he suggested that they should run away, Caffey said they should kill her parents instead. So on that day, Wilkinson and Wade entered Caffey's house while they were sleeping and shot her parents multiple times. When Caffey's mother didn't die immediately, Wade used a samurai-style sword and almost decapitated her. This killed her immediately.
He was to get revenge because we made him break up with our daughter. I heard my son Matthew cry out. He said, Charlie, why are you doing this? No, Charlie, no, please, why are you doing this?
Wilkinson and Wade shot Tyler, Erin's younger brother, and took turns slicing Erin's other brother, Matthew, till he died. Wilkinson and Wade then set fire to the house before leaving with Erin and Wade's girlfriend. Terry Caffey, Erin's father, survived the attack and told the officers that Charlie Wilkinson had attacked them. Charlie Wilkinson was found in his trailer and he was arrested. Erin was in the trailer as well, but she claimed that she had been kidnapped. Charles Wade and his girlfriend were arrested as well. However, the horrific revelation came after the police interrogated the four of them. Erin's story quickly fell apart because Wilkinson and Wade told the same story. Erin had orchestrated the murders. Caffey insisted that she had nothing to do with the murders.
I honestly believe that she was not the mastermind, and I'm not saying that out of denial because it's my daughter, but I don't believe my daughter's evil.
In the end, Wilkinson and Wade were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Caffey, on the other hand, was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 40 years. Her father, who survived the attack, forgave her, saying that she was manipulated by Wilkinson. Now we turn to Carly Madison's case, where family bonds shattered in an act of violence driven by motives as chilling as they are disturbing.
She was having a mental health crisis.
She doesn't know what was going on at that time. We're asking you to find her not guilty by reason of insanity.
Prosecutors say she shot her mother, Ashley Smiley, a 40-year-old high school math teacher, in the face.
On March 19, 2024, a friend of 14-year-old Carly Gregg reached out to Ashley Smiley, Carly's mother, expressing concerns about her daughter's excessive use of marijuana. The friend revealed that Carly had been indulging in the drug and using burner cell phones, raising alarms about their well-being. Determined to act, Ashley decided to confront her daughter about the rumors. After speaking to Carly's friend, Ashley made her way to Carly's bedroom. What she discovered there shocked her. Several vape pens lay scattered across the bedroom. Alarmed, Ashley quickly wanted answers.
The jury seeing 5 days of disturbing evidence, including this surveillance video. First, you see Gregg with a gun behind her back, pacing around the home.
That afternoon, security camera footage from inside the home captured a chilling scene. Carly, dressed in a Nirvana t-shirt, moved around the house, seemingly hiding something behind her back. It turned out to be a .357 Magnum handgun. As Carly walked out of view from the camera, the sound of 3 gunshots shattered the silence. The footage then showed Carly rushing back to the kitchen, where she sat calmly on the stool at the counter. She took out her phone and texted a friend, asking them to come over because there was an emergency. When Carly's friends arrived at the house, Carly asked them if they had ever seen a dead body. Without further explanation, Carly took them into her mother's bedroom, where Ashley lay lifeless, her face soaked in blood. According to this friend, Carly confessed that her stepfather, Heath Smiley, was next on her list. Using her dead mother's phone, Carly, pretending to be her mother, sent a message to Heath. The message read, "When will you be home, honey?" Little did Heath know that this message was a carefully crafted trap.
Her stepfather, Heath Smiley, coming home moments later, Gregg also shooting him.
When Heath arrived at the front door, Carly ambushed him, shooting her stepfather in the shoulder. Despite the injury, Heath managed to take control of the situation. He overpowered Carly and took the gun away from her, ultimately saving his own life. In a panic, Heath called for help. Police officers arrived swiftly, along with paramedics. Carly was arrested on the spot. As investigators delved into Carly's background, they discovered a diary that shed light on her darkest thoughts. The journal revealed a list of beliefs that painted a chilling picture of Carly's twisted mind. Among these beliefs were statements such as, "There is no God," "It's okay to be evil," and "There is no need for family." The prosecution offered Carly a 40-year plea deal before her trial. However, she declined the offer. Carly's case quickly gained media attention, and the trial commenced 6 months later, in September 2024.
Tonight, a Mississippi teen sentenced to life in prison without parole for murdering her mother and attempting to kill her stepfather.
During the trial, the prosecution presented a compelling argument, painting Carly Gregg as a calculating and cold-hearted killer. They alleged that Carly intentionally shot and killed her mother, Ashley, after Ashley discovered her secret marijuana use. The prosecution described Carly as a dangerous young lady who showed no remorse for her actions and planned the attack on her stepfather.
We, the jury, sentenced the defendant Carly Madison Gregg to life imprisonment.
The defense, on the other hand, presented a different narrative to the court. They claimed that Carly was in the midst of mental health struggles at the time of the crimes. A psychiatrist testified that Carly's mood swings were exacerbated by the medication she was taking. This psychiatrist argued that Carly's actions were not premeditated, but were driven by her unstable mental state. According to the psychiatrist, Carly's mental health struggles played a significant role in her violent actions. To support this claim, the defense presented Carly's journals as evidence, which revealed a young woman in mental turmoil.
I need to get some information from you. What is her name again? Carly, C-A-R-L-Y. C-A-R-L-Y? Carly Madison.
During the trial, the prosecution presented the body cam footage captured by the police officers at the scene. The video depicted the chaotic aftermath of the murders as officers arrived at the scene and conducted their investigation. Carly sat at the defense table. She stared intently, her eyes fixed on the screen. As Carly watched the footage, tears welled up in her eyes. The once composed and confident teenager was overcome with emotion. One of the key witnesses in Carly's trial was her stepfather, Heath.
Went off in my face before the door was, 3 or 4 inches wide open.
Heath testified about the tragic events that led to his wife's murder. He stated that despite Carly's actions, he still had a good relationship with her. This statement shocked the public, as it seemed incomprehensible that he could maintain a bond with someone who had shot him and taken the life of his wife. In their closing argument, the prosecution reminded the jury that Carly knew the difference between right and wrong when she committed the murder. After careful consideration, the jury deliberated for less than 2 hours before delivering their verdict. They returned a guilty verdict, finding Carly guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Carly, who was only 15 years old, was found guilty of first-degree murder. Speaking to WLBT in an exclusive interview, Kevin Gregg, Carly's biological father, said he was embarrassed, angry, upset, and very sad about his daughter's actions. Currently, Carly is being held in the Youthful Offender Unit at the Central Mississippi Correctional Facility. The defense attorneys have indicated that they plan to appeal Carly's conviction. However, given the severity of her crime and the public outcry, it seems unlikely that the appeal will successfully overturn the verdict. Up next is the chilling tale of Brendan Depa, a teenage felon whose crimes shocked his school community and targeted his own teacher.
He's charged with beating teachers aide Joe Nadich last year for taking his Nintendo away in class, deputies saying he beat her unconscious.
Joanne Nadich was a valued paraprofessional at Matanzas High School who had gained a reputation for her dedication and commitment to supporting students. However, she became increasingly concerned about Brendan Depa, a troubled teen known for his aggressive behavior and obsession with gaming. In February 2023, Joanne approached Brendan's teacher to express her concerns about allowing him to participate in the gaming console class. She believed that given his disruptive behavior and lack of focus, he should not be allowed to use the console in the classroom. Brendan became enraged after hearing that he would no longer be allowed to use the console in the classroom. Instead of directing his anger towards his teacher, Brendan turned his wrath on Joanne. In a fit of rage, he stood up and got into Joanne's face, spitting on her. Determined to escape the situation, Joanne attempted to leave the classroom. However, Brendan refused to back down, pushing her to the ground. As Joanne lay defenseless on the ground, Brendan continued his assault, raining down blows and kicks upon her. Fortunately, the assault was interrupted by several bystanders who managed to pull Brendan away from Joanne.
Friends are raising money for Joan in a GoFundMe. You can see more than $40,000 has been raised so far.
As the deputies led Brendan away, he continued to threaten Joanne, vowing to kill her. Joanne's injuries were extensive and required immediate medical attention. She was hospitalized, where she was diagnosed with broken ribs, herniated discs, and rotator cuff injuries. In addition to these physical wounds, Joanne also began to experience the impact of the attack on her mental health. Matanzas High School surveillance system captured the entire incident. Footage of Brendan's merciless beating of Joanne quickly spread online, captivating the attention of viewers worldwide. Brendan's time behind bars was not without controversy. He managed to secure his GED while incarcerated. Nevertheless, he also found himself in frequent trouble, accumulating 9 incidents while confined in Flagler County Jail.
He is articulate and thoughtful in his responses to the court. He's been here the entire day without any problems in that regard, participating in these proceedings.
2 years after his arrest, Brendan pleaded no contest to aggravated battery on a school board employee. During the sentencing hearing, Brendan's demeanor was both disturbing and perplexing. Brendan laid his head on the defense table.
Candidate for solely community-based sanctions, at least not at first. Turning to this particular incident.
When the prosecutor spoke, calling Brendan dangerous, Brendan bent over in his seat, keeping his eyes firmly planted on the ground. The judge sentenced Brendan to 5 years in state prison and 15 years probation. Addressing Brendan directly, the judge declared that he had shown no remorse throughout the proceedings.
But for all of his diagnosis and treatment that he needs, that he be evaluated for his prescription medication on a regular basis.
Throughout the hearing, Brendan became increasingly agitated. He repeatedly protested at his attorney and demanded to speak, holding up a sheet of paper twice to emphasize his point. As Brendan left the courthouse, his demeanor seemed to change. Instead of his usual smile and enthusiastic interactions with the press, he gave a disturbing gesture. Brendan flipped off the cameras, sending a chilling message to the media and the world.
First of all, Ashley, I want to thank you for having me on tonight. I really appreciate that. It obviously was not what we were hoping for.
Speaking on his behalf, Brendan's mother expressed her dissatisfaction with the verdict and the sentence. Brendan's mother also claimed that the court was punishing her son because of his race. She alleged that the school district had failed her son by not implementing a proper behavior plan, leading to his aggressive behavior. Instead of prison, she advocated for Brendan to receive treatment, believing that this alternative would better address his issues. Our next case takes a dark turn as we meet a teen who escalated from robbery to cold-blooded murder.
It's cold-blooded murder. Cold-blooded murder, young man.
It's not uncommon to see a teenager commit a robbery, but 17-year-old Michael Swanson would take it too far when he not only robbed 2 convenience stores, but ended up gruesomely murdering the attendants. His reaction to being sentenced for these crimes sent shockwaves down the spine of everyone in court. On Monday, the 15th of November, 2010, at the age of 17, Michael Swanson allegedly stole his mother's car and his grandfather's .40 caliber handgun and drove to northern Iowa in search of a thrill. Just after 9 p.m. that day, a young man wearing a ski mask walked into a Crossroads gas station in Algona, Iowa, where he demanded cash and cigarettes from the clerk, 47-year-old Vicki Bowman Hall. Despite complying with his request, the young man chose to shoot her anyway, leaving her for dead as he fled the scene in a Jeep Grand Cherokee. About an hour later, the same young man appeared at a come-and-go convenience store in Humboldt, about 30 miles south of Algona, where he once again demanded cash from the clerk, this time 61-year-old Sheila Myers. Despite Myers handing him the cash he'd asked for, he had already made up his mind just like the prior incident and shot her anyway, in the face, from only 2 feet away. She died instantly and he quickly fled the scene once again. That young man turned out to be 17-year-old Michael Swanson. Before committing those murders, Swanson had driven from St. Louis Park to northern Minnesota to Iowa in a car he had stolen from his mother, Kathleen, along with her debit cards earlier that morning. This wasn't the first time he had stolen his mother's car, his mother, Kathleen, testifying that he'd had violent and sometimes criminal tendencies since he was a toddler. When he was only 11, she was told by a psychiatrist that he was a lost cause when she reported to them that he was a threat to their family members. Swanson had been clinically diagnosed with a host of mental disorders, including ADHD and bipolar disorder, amongst others. One time in 2006 for assembling and storing dangerous weapons, which his aunt discovered in a car trunk after she demanded the money he had stolen from her nonprofit organization where he was doing community service. These dangerous behaviors were a well-known ticking time bomb that would eventually lead Swanson to his downfall. During the second murder, police had received reports of the first from witnesses and began tracing the trail to Swanson. Swanson had managed to get to a McDonald's in Webster City, about 60 miles from Algona, before he was caught and arrested. The police officers also recovered the stolen money and cigarettes, as well as the handgun he used in perpetrating the murders. When interrogated over the murders, Swanson told the police that he shot them so they wouldn't be able to call police or identify him. During his prosecution, Swanson showed no remorse over his actions, as he confessed there was a deliberate attempt to murder Myers. Swanson was eventually charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of robbery. At his first hearing over the murder of Myers in June 2011, The jury reached a quick verdict, and Swanson was found guilty of both charges, after which he flipped off the TV cameras. At his second trial that July, he was also found guilty of the robbery and murder of Bowman Hall. For his role in the murders of Myers and Bowman Hall, a then 18-year-old Swanson was handed 2 life sentences without the eligibility of parole. During his sentencing, Swanson could be seen smiling and laughing as his verdict was read.
Blooded murder, young man. And your counsel wants us to believe that you lacked the capacity, that you were insane.
Jillian, the daughter of Bowman Hall, confronted Swanson in an emotional statement, calling him a weak coward.
My mom was not only completely 100% innocent, but she was also a defenseless woman when you came in with that gun.
Johnson reportedly told a psychiatrist that he had been fascinated by murder and committing acts of violence since he was 13, and intended to wait until he was 18 so he could kill his parents, who he had planned to be his first victims. In 2013, Swanson's sentence was revised to 60 years before parole eligibility by the governor of Iowa, Terry Branstad, who decided to commute the life sentences of 38 Iowa inmates who had been convicted as juveniles. In November 2014, Swanson was charged with attempted murder while in prison for attacking a fellow inmate with a knife. He was convicted of this charge in 2015 and sentenced to an additional 25 years in prison. He will be eligible for parole in 2089 at the age of 96. Our next case dives into one of the deadliest school shooters in U.S. history.
Are you a citizen of the United States?
Yes, sir.
Are you requesting consideration for a court-appointed attorney?
Yes, sir.
Are you out on bond for any other charge?
No, sir.
Now we turn to William Riley Gaul, who chose an unthinkable end to his relationship, leaving devastating consequences in his wake.
It's Friday night. The lights. The band.
Emma Walker was a Central High School teenager known for her compassionate nature and kind heart. She aspired to become a neonatal nurse and dedicated her life to helping others. Her life took a turn when she started dating Riley Gaul, a charismatic and popular young man.
And in the fall of 2014, there was a new girl whose spirit was sparkling, 14-year-old freshman Emma Walker.
Initially, Emma and Riley's relationship seemed to be filled with promise and joy. Riley doted on Emma, showering her with attention and affection. Emma, in turn, seemed to be deeply in love. However, beneath the surface, there were signs that something was amiss.
On the outside looking in, you just think he's just a normal guy.
Friends describe him as a jokester.
Emma and Riley encountered challenges early in their relationship despite their apparent connection. Riley was already in a relationship with someone else when they started dating. However, he promised Emma he would end things with his girlfriend and be with her exclusively. However, he never followed this promise, even attending the prom with his girlfriend.
We were happy for her, that she found someone that she really liked.
Her social media splashed with pictures of the perfect pair.
As time went on, a controlling side to Riley began to surface. He grew intolerant of Emma spending time with boys who were not him, and imposed strict rules on what she was allowed to do. Despite their efforts to make it work, their relationship was plagued by constant fights and disagreements. In November 2017, Emma decided it was time to end the toxic relationship for good. However, Riley refused to listen, resorting to threats and self-harm in order to get Emma back. When Emma finally mustered the courage to end things for good, Riley resorted to drastic measures.
Since 16-year-old Emma Walker was killed inside her Knoxville home by her ex-boyfriend.
On November 18, 2016, Riley, consumed by jealousy and desperation, faked his own kidnapping. He concocted an elaborate plan to trick Emma into feeling sorry for him and ultimately returning to his side. However, Emma was unconvinced and refused to let him manipulate her emotions. Frustrated and desperate, Riley made a tragic decision. Several nights later, on November 21st, after midnight, Riley headed straight to Emma's house. Armed with his grandfather's gun, he aimed and fired 2 shots into the corner of the home. One of the gunshots struck Emma in the back of the head, killing her instantly.
And I think him being older, she looked up to him and listened to him.
Things started normal for the teenage couple.
Seemed very healthy in the beginning.
When Emma's mother left for work the next morning, she found her daughter lying lifeless in her bed. Horrified and devastated, she immediately called 911 to report the tragic incident. Law enforcement arrived on the scene and launched an investigation. Detectives had initially believed Emma took her life, but when a second bullet hole was discovered in the wall and 2 shell casings were found outside the house, the case took a twist. The authorities then classified her death as a homicide.
Gaul killed her by shooting through the walls of her home as she slept in her bed.
I had called 911. Then later on, we didn't know at the moment, but later on we did find out it was a shooting.
Riley Gaul emerged as a prime suspect in Emma's murder, and the evidence gathered pointed strongly towards him. Two close friends of Riley's, recognizing the severity of this situation, decided to collaborate with the detectives to bring justice to Emma and her family. Under the guise of playing a harmless video game, these two teenagers secretly wore a recording device to gather evidence against Riley. They intended to uncover Riley's involvement in Emma's murder and expose the truth.
I told him all the truth, like where I was, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Played during his trial, a secret video of Riley Gaul taken by his friends.
During the meeting, Riley denied killing Emma, but did show them the gun. On April 30th, 2018, Riley stood trial for Emma's murder. The defense argued that Riley did indeed shoot Emma, but that it was not a premeditated murder. Their defense was that Riley's actions were driven by a desire to win Emma back and orchestrate an elaborate ploy to win her affection.
They paid careful attention over the past 7 days and came back with a just verdict that will hopefully give some measure of peace.
However, the prosecution argued that Riley knew exactly what he was doing when he fired the bullet into Emma's bedroom wall. They maintained that the shot was intentionally aimed at Emma's head, leaving no doubt that he intended to kill her. The prosecutors asserted that Riley's actions were premeditated and driven by jealousy and a desire to possess Emma at any cost.
First and foremost, I would like to sincerely apologize to the Walker family for causing nothing but pain and turmoil to their entire family.
On May 8, 2018, Riley was found guilty of multiple charges, including first-degree murder. Following the guilty verdict, the judge handed down a sentence of life without the possibility of parole for 51 years. This sentence was met with mixed reactions from Riley and his legal team. Riley apologized to Emma's loved ones. 3 years after his conviction, Riley filed a petition for a new trial, citing insufficient evidence to support his conviction. However, his motion was denied by the court, leaving him imprisoned for life. Riley turned his attention to the Tennessee Court of Criminal Appeals, hoping that his case would be reviewed and his sentence reduced. In February of 2023, the appellate judge upheld Riley's murder conviction, denying his appeal. Next, we have Rachel Shoaf, who took a life simply to end a friendship.
I'm so sorry. I don't know if there's a proper way to make this apology because there are not even words to describe the guilt and remorse that I feel each day for what I've done.
This is Rachel Shoaf, and she's charged with the murder of Skylar Neese when she was only 16 years old. On July 6, 2012, 16-year-old Skylar Neese disappeared from her home in Star City, West Virginia, and was not found until January 16, 2013. Unfortunately, only Neese's body was found with the help of one of the murderers, Rachel Shoaf. The other person who was charged with the murder of Neese was Sheila Eddy. Shoaf and Eddy were friends with Neese until their friendship turned sour. According to Shoaf's confessions, the motive for murdering Neese was that they didn't like her and didn't want to be friends with her anymore. The surveillance of the apartment where Neese lived showed that Neese left her home at 12:30 a.m. through her window and entered into a sedan with Shoaf and Eddy. That was the last time anyone besides Shoaf and Eddy saw Neese alive. Because of this, Neese was first treated as a runaway until the police discovered that the sedan on the surveillance belonged to Eddy.
Rachel and Sheila drove around Star City and in the area, preparing themselves. They had concealed knives on their bodies that had been wrapped in towels by Sheila Eddy, and they took that shovel with them, and they arrived at Skylar's home and told her they were waiting for her. They were waiting to kill her.
When Shoaf and Eddy were questioned, they said they had hung out with Neese but dropped her off at home an hour after they left. At this point, Neese hadn't been found. However, on January 3, 2013, Rachel Shoaf suddenly admitted that she and Eddy had plotted to kill Neese. She also led them to where they left Neese. Skylar Neese had been stabbed to death almost 30 miles away from her home, before Shoaf and Eddy dumped her body and covered it up with branches. It was not until years later that Shoaf finally gave the real motive behind the murder. According to her, she and Eddy had been in a romantic relationship and Neese caused tension between the couple, leading them to get rid of her.
I'm so sorry. I don't know if there's a proper way to make this apology because there are not even words to describe the guilt and remorse that I feel each day for what I've done.
Shoaf pled guilty to second-degree murder in exchange for cooperating with the authorities to find her victim. In court, she apologized for her actions and showed remorse for what she did. She was teary as she apologized to Niece's family and her parents. Eventually, it was time for sentencing.
It is the sentence of the court that you be imprisoned in the West Virginia State Penitentiary for a period of 30 years.
Rachel Shoaf was sentenced to 30 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 10 years. On May 9, 2023, Shoaf became eligible for parole and bid for it. She was denied parole and remains in custody. Shoaf and Eddie murdered Niece because of romantic tension. But how does it compare to murdering one's grandparents for no apparent reason, as Johnny Ryder and Cassandra Bjorge did?
All right, Ms. Bjorge, you are charged with 2 felony warrants for murder, 2 felony warrants for aggravated assault.
On April 8, 2017, Gwinnett County, Georgia experienced the shocking and brutal double murders of 63-year-old Randall and Wendy Bjorge. The two were grandparents to 17-year-old Cassandra Bjorge. They had gotten legal custody because she had issues with her parents. Despite the grandparents' best efforts to give Cassandra a good life, she became more troubled and would run away from home from time to time. She also brought home drugs and assaulted her grandmother on multiple occasions. She also had a boyfriend, 19-year-old Johnny Ryder, who she ran away with many times. The couple were described as volatile and toxic. Eventually, they committed worse crimes. On April 8th, the police responded to an assault case in a home in Lawrenceville, and the victims identified the attackers as Johnny Ryder and Cassandra Bjorge. The two of them had attacked Johnny's sister and her boyfriend with a baseball bat and pepper spray before escaping. The car they used to escape belonged to Wendy and Randall, and this led the police to force their way into the home, as they expected the worst. To their horror, they found the bodies of Wendy and Randall. The two of them had been stabbed multiple times. Their autopsies showed that they had suffered blunt force to the head and various cuts around their throats. Everyone was horrified that something like that had happened in their community. Cassie and Johnny became the main suspects in the case, and a day after the Bjorges were found, their granddaughter and her boyfriend were found after they barricaded themselves inside an apartment. They refused to come out, and by the time the SWAT team was able to get a visual, they found out that the teens were injured in the bathroom as they had tried to commit suicide. They failed this attempt and were taken to the hospital. The two of them were charged with the murders of Cassie's grandparents. The interrogation revealed some shocking details that showed that the murder had been premeditated.
It seems that you're sorry you got caught, that you had people over after. You don't seem to be sorry that you killed your grandparents.
Cassie told the police that they had planned to murder her grandparents and keep their bodies from being discovered. According to Cassandra, she and Johnny waited until her grandparents were asleep before entering their bedroom, duct taping and attacking them. The murder weapons included a tire iron, a baseball bat, a hammer, and butcher knives. The two of them beat and stabbed the Bjorges to death. What's even more horrific is that after the murders, Cassandra sealed the windows and doors with caulk to keep the smell of the decomposing bodies from coming out.
And then we came back to the house.
When you guys left, where'd you guys go to?
We went over to like Kroger or Publix to go get something to eat, and then we went back to the house and we just kind of like chilled there.
Which one?
That was like on Old Peachtree.
Johnny and Cassie then ordered takeout and invited their friends to the house for a party. She also said that they smoked a lot of weed to mask the smell of the bodies, as they were in the house for more than a week.
Things like just seemed different. They didn't look at me the same anymore. Like they didn't, I don't know. It's like the vibe that they have was like they didn't really know what to do. They didn't really know like how to be around me. I guess they didn't really know how to talk to me.
The motive for the murder was shocking. Cassie said she killed her grandparents because they were too strict. She also said that her grandparents weren't the only intended victims. According to her, she and Johnny had planned to kill Johnny's family and Cassandra's mother. They both took a plea deal and didn't go to trial. Both of them were sentenced to 2 life sentences, each with the possibility of parole after 60 years. When the two heard their sentences, their reactions were different from each other. While Johnny apologized for what he did, Cassie was said to have been crying and refused to say anything even when she was given the chance to speak. The two would be eligible for parole in 2077. Up next is Bouche, a teenager with a meticulously crafted plan to kill.
That's why I put down the gun. I could have kept going. There was no officers there to stop me. I put it down because there was a girl there. She didn't run from me. She just, I shot through the door. I could have shot her, but I don't know.
Before embarking on his deadly mission, Bouche meticulously planned every detail. Sky placed his shotgun into his guitar case. He then took 2 phenibut, a psychoactive substance banned in the United States but available online. Additionally, Sky placed a tactical vest in his backpack and approached Forest High School. When Sky arrived at Forest High School, he saw a teenage girl walking by. However, instead of pulling the trigger, he hesitated. This unexpected moment of clarity may have prevented a more devastating outcome. Instead of targeting innocent lives, Sky fired his weapon through a classroom door, striking a student in the ankle. Minutes after firing the shotgun, Sky was arrested by a school resource officer. As the police approached, Sky had his hands up and surrendered, claiming he had a mental illness. Sky's motive behind the chilling act was to inflict fear in students, according to his statements. He claimed that he never intended to kill anyone, but rather wanted to terrorize the school population.
Watch your back. Did you intend on shooting anybody else? Why today?
According to Sky, he had nightmares that prompted him to plan and perform the shooting. These disturbing dreams fueled his desire to take action and carry out a violent act. Sky admitted that he wanted to go to jail. He believed that being incarcerated would prevent him from committing another shooting in the future, fearing that he could be a danger to himself or others.
I put it in a guitar case, and I also had a tactical vest filled with shotgun slug rounds.
Sky admitted that he purchased the gun 1 week after the Marjorie Stoneman High School shooting in Parkland. This private cash sale did not require a background check. He was charged with terrorism, aggravated assault with a firearm, carrying a concealed weapon, and armed trespass on school property.
What do you have to say to people who are out there who are scared because of what you did today?
I don't know if it's going to make it any better. I could say sorry all I want, but it doesn't matter now.
Faced with the possibility of a lengthy prison sentence, Sky decided to plead no contest, resulting in a 30-year sentence with an additional 30 years of probation. During the sentencing hearing, Sky's grandmother, Linda Costello, was allowed to make a statement on his behalf. Speaking via Zoom, she described her grandson as a nice person and expressed her remorse for his actions. According to Linda, Sky had expressed a desire to make a positive impact in the community by sharing his story and urging other teenagers to stay away from illegal substances purchased over the internet.
It's a probable cause to hold you on the charges that have been made. I'm here to see about getting you some representation by an attorney.
The devastation left in the wake of these teenage killers is undeniable, yet their reactions are just the start. Don't miss the next video for more jaw-dropping stories and unforgettable courtroom drama.